Hi guys, how you going? It's Campbell here from Autodidactic channel, and what is autodidactic? It is to be self-educated, guys, and you want to be self-educated because, believe me, you do not want to learn what they're teaching. Okay, got a video for you today which is about Fremantle, which is a town, well, it's actually a suburb now, not far from where I live, and I just wanted to go through some of the history and the buildings down there, because the buildings are pretty amazing. Okay, so here's the wiki page. So history: in 1848 a town trust was formed, blah blah blah. So by 1870 the population of Fremantle had reached 3,796 people. Okay, and it was founded, this is just about the actual city, it was founded in 1829, yeah, 1829. But so let's just get into it. Okay, so Fremantle, founded 1829, and the population in 1870 was 3,796. And as you can see, this is 1866, so this is before 1870. So you know, the population was less than 3,796. Now what this building is this is the Fremantle prison. That's right, Fremantle prison. Look at the size of that thing. And yeah, so this was built by convicts. Here it is again. This is a modern day shot of it, and this is the original doorway you can see here. As you can see, it's like a castle, and the original buildings. And we're told that the convicts built this between 1852 and 1859, and they got all the stone. They quarried all the stone themselves from the site. Now this place is just immense. It's very big. As you can see, it's got the traditional, what we're told is Greco-Roman architecture there. This bottom half does look like it's half the size of this top story, so I'm not sure what's going on there. This is a view inside it, just to show you the size. You know, these are people down here, and it's a very, very big building. And obviously these were all the prison cells that the prisoners built for themselves. This is the chapel that they built in there, and it's got the traditional, you know, big arched roofs and everything. And this is actually tunnels that are underneath Fremantle prison. And they're not natural tunnels, but they're in there and they're full of water. And you've got to remember that they're telling us the convicts built this prison, and so they built tunnels underneath it as well, but they didn't escape. So it's a bit weird, but now you can do tours through them. It's not operating as a prison anymore. It's just a World Heritage Site or something where you can do tours, and they have ghost nights and everything. This here is called the Roundhouse, and this was, we're told, was the first prison in Fremantle, which was built by the convicts. And it's just an interesting picture. Like, what's going on here? See the land? It's just all dropped off. And there you can see, you know, we've got the nice archways, the double stairways. You know, this beautiful architecture leading up to this building. And you know, again, built by convicts. And this photo's from the early 1900s, I believe. And this is a picture of the Roundhouse today. Okay, as you can see, they've built on. They've closed in the stairs. They've built a few walls around it, but it's still there, made from sandstone. Got the Greco-Roman arch here, or the whatever you call that triangle. And just want to show you inside it as well too. See, inside it actually goes down another story, because this is all you can see from that street level is the top story. So it is actually sunken. Okay, this is Fremantle Town Hall. I mean, look at this building. It's so, you know, just classic, you know, classic sort of architecture that's found all over the world. All these little arches and sort of half Vesica Pisces things. We've got the spire up the top here, tower, the clock face, you know, these traditional windows, the long windows that we see. And these windows we tend to see, hang on, what have I put this in. Well, this is actually the symbol. This is a swan. So this is a symbol of Western Australia, because we've got the Swan River. We're the state that has the black swans. But as you can see, that it doesn't match. Like, this stuff looks much, much older, and it looks like that's just been put on there. Okay, so this stuff is traditional columns, the stuff we see everywhere. But this, it looks like it's been added later. And this is still the Fremantle Town Hall. This is up on the spire. And what have we got next here? Okay, so this is the same building. So it was started on May the 28th, 1885, and was opened 2 years later, built by convicts and free men. So it took them 2 years to build this thing, and look at the size of it. And this also has these, these sort of horizontal lines on it that you find in some buildings. Some people are saying that it's got something to do with conductivity, electricity generation or energy generation of some kind. Which would fit. It's got the big spire on it. It's got a lot of those classic features that those, the churches and things like that have. The windows, so who knows. As you can see, it goes right down there. It's a big building, and it's got all the classic stuff. Okay, now this is the Fremantle Boys School. This was 1882. So again, the population in 1870 was 3,900 or so. And look at the size of this school they've built. All out of solid stone, and it's completed by 1882. And this next building, it should be the Fremantle. No, it's not. Okay, this is the Esplanade Hotel, again, opened 1895, and this is just a side view of it. See, it's quite a big building. Again, we've got the dome here. Looks like there used to be some kind of spire on it. And yeah, this was built, again, when the population, wasn't very big. So this is another view of it. You can see how big this is. It's got the classic, Greco-Roman triangles, arched windows. It's just classic, it's got it all. It says that it was built, basically it started off as warehouses and housed a few convicts and then turned into a hotel. Why they needed it that big, I don't know. Now, this is the Fremantle Art Center. Look at that building. Look at the size of it. It is huge. Classic, pillars, all the stuff. Okay, so that building was built by convicts in 1864. Again, the population, it's before the population was 3,900. On 6 acres. This splendid example of Australian Gothic architecture first opens its doors in 1864 as the convict establishment Fremantle Display Lunatic Asylum and Invalid Depot. Okay, so this is, the colony was formed in 1828. Is that right? Yeah, 1829. And so this is 35 years later, and they've got so many insane people and lunatics and invalids are just people who've got nowhere to live. They're poor, might be going insane, and so they build this building for them. And this is a picture of it back from the 1800s, and it's obviously an old building. And look at the architecture. It's just so classic of that sort of, what are we calling it, Tartarian architecture or something that's found all over the world. Yeah. So it was basically the biggest building in Fremantle, and okay, this is a picture from the 1940s, and this is it. Look at the size. And this land is no longer there. It's been taken up by, I think we've got some parks and swimming pools in there now, but it's just sort of on the road. But this is 1940. You can see, Fremantle's still just little one-story houses, and they've got this massive building that was built for lunatics, 60, 70 years prior. I mean, and the thing about these buildings is, if you notice around the world, a lot of these really, really big buildings that look like they should. Now, look, this has got a wall around it. The wall no longer. I think there's bits of the wall left, but it doesn't exist in full. But it looks like a castle of some kind or some huge estate. And if you look around the world, there's lots of these, and they're always turned into like lunatic asylums or prisons. Somewhere where they can basically throw all the people that, maybe they're throwing the people there that aren't buying their new version of history. Who knows? Okay, so the next photo we've got here, this is all Fremantle Art Center again. I think we've seen that one. Okay, so this is just a building. This is just on a highway called Sterling Highway. And I mean, look at this thing. It's just shops now. And as far as I know, they say it was always sort of shops, or maybe it was started as apartments. But I mean, look at the pillars on this. Like, it's doorways. It's just classic, isn't it? And you can't really see, but it actually drops off to the back down there. So I'm not sure what's under the front, but it could be, a potential mud flood building. Most of Fremantle's fairly flat near the ocean, so there's not a lot of them that I've found. This is again Victoria Hall. The story behind this is it was built as a church, and then literally the year it was finished, it was Queen Victoria's, anniversary for something, Jubilee or something. So they basically renamed it and just handed it over to the government or whoever. But again, look at this. We've got the portholes, got the classic, and look at all the inlays in there. And again, that looks older, or it looks like they may have redone this bit, but these pillars and stuff, it looks like it's been covered so they can put Victoria Hall on there. I don't know, but just look at the architecture. I mean, and this is all built, when Fremantle was still a small town, and without a lot of skilled labourers. A lot of the people were convicts, and the rest had come from England. They were trying to adapt to a new environment. They had to build infrastructure, and they're doing stuff like this. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. And here's another one. You'll notice on all of them, the doors, they're always filled in, these huge doors. But this is just a typical street in Fremantle again. We've got a spire here, we've got a dome here, we've got the portholes. It's just everywhere. We've got all the pillars, the domed arched windows, everywhere. Again, they're just everywhere. Like you can see, they just line the street. These buildings, they've all got the same architecture. Like, look at them, and this is just a facade. I think now it's pretty much broken. There's no back to it, but you can see what it used to be. And this is a shot of Fremantle back in the sort of 30s or 40s, and you can just see straight down this street. They are all these buildings, red brick. They've all got the arched windows, the columns. There's a big church or whatever they are down here with a spire on it. These buildings literally line the streets in Fremantle. They're just, that's what Fremantle is. It's full of them. So the question is, how did they build them all? But also, where did they get all this stone from? Because as you can see, there's a lot of stone. This is the post office in Fremantle. I mean, look at that. It's, what we can see, it's at least 3 stories counting this bit. Again, it's got the dome with the spire. It's got all these little balls on it, which many of them have, the arched windows, and it's, the classic red brick. All this stuff may have been, filled in later, because again, they've written their name in that sort of bit, so I think that's what they do. They put facades on them just to change the look a bit, and so they can put their emblems on them without it looking out of place. But this one, this was built again, I think it was the late 1800s. But basically, it was built when the population of Fremantle was like 5,000 people. So why did they need a post office that big? Again here, this is now shops, as you can see at the bottom. all the arches. This is Fremantle train station again. Now if you look behind, it's all red brick, but they've put, I'm not sure if this was put on after or if it was refaced or something with just, you know, sort of facade sandstone. This Fremantle train station, another big classic, got the big spire here, you know, got balls, got everything. This is the inside of it. Okay, we've got these massive doorways again, archways, domed roof. I mean, it's everywhere, guys. It's just it's all the same architecture. And what why was a convict colony, you know, in Australia building this stuff? You know, like back then when they didn't have the population to do it. This is just, again, this is the main street of Fremantle, High Street. You can just see that everywhere. These are what we're told as Greco-Romans everywhere. You know, a lot of the buildings have these sort of wooden front porches put on them. But as you can see, the tin roof, but as you can see what's behind it, it is all stone up there. I think I've got another photo of this one. And these are some of the pubs, guys. You know, the bars, whatever you call them, pubs where you get a drink. This is the Freemason Hotel. But again, as you can see, got all these portholes. I mean, it's just all the same. I mean, and it looks like they've put on this facade on the outside, this sort of little wooden thing. Here's another one, the dome, spire, portholes, columns, arched windows. Again, portholes, arched windows, spire, you know, but look at the size of that building. And that's just a pub, you know. This is another one, the local hotel. These are all just pubs, guys. You know, same thing. Arched windows, columns. You know, this is an older photo, but as you can see, it looks like they put this is the Newmarket Hotel, they put this facade on it, but at the back you can see it's a brick stone building. But this is still around, this pub. But yeah, like in Australia, I'm going to do like another video on just the outback pubs. Like pubs are literally in the middle of nowhere, guys, and they are just amazing big stone architectural buildings. Here, this is that same pub that we just saw. This is it today. So as you can see, it is, you know, all the arched doorways, everything else. It's not as big as the others. It might be half in the sand, that one. And I mean, this architecture is everywhere. Again, it's exactly the same thing. Dome, spire, everything there. Now I've just written down here, after 10 years of neglect and handful of aborted attempts at restoring it, the Royal George Hotel, oops, missed that one, in Freo will be brought back to life in 1903. So it was built in 1903, this thing. But put the text over that, but oh, here's another one. Look at the side of this, just teetering off, going down. But this is the same hotel, Royal George, again, the spire, you know, it's just everywhere. They've obviously painted this one. Now this, I don't know, this is an old power station that's just south of Fremantle now. I'm not really sure. I couldn't find much on when it was built or anything. It's been closed down, you know, ever since I can remember. I think it was a power generating factory or something like that. But what I found interesting, apart from this, you know, the size of it and the structure, and you know, it is that sort of column sort of structure. But you can see on the front here, they've built on a little office. It's human size, but I mean, look at that. That's the roof line, and look at the door next to it. So I don't know about that one. I just found it interesting. Okay, again, classic Fremantle. It's like everywhere. There's not like it's just every street. Here's that one we saw before, and with the front on it. But as you can see, it has got the stone Greco-Roman portico. And with these ones, I'll just go back. If you've noticed, all of these buildings, they have these, like on the top, they have like these verandas. These well, that's what we call them, verandas, porches, you know, decks, you know, because they've got railing around them. So, but it's only, I don't know, it just looks like it should be taller or something. I don't know, it just doesn't look right to me. This is them supposedly putting in train tracks in Fremantle back in the 1930s. Tram tracks, sorry, they're no longer there. They only lasted like 20 years before they ripped them up, they said. So, you know, were they laying them or were they uncovering them? I'm not really sure. But again, also look at the street. It's just like these buildings are just everywhere. All this electricity running down the streets. This is High Street, Fremantle. This is an old shot from the late 1800s, you know, before cars. But as you can see, you know, it's all stone buildings. You know, big spire up here. I mean, it's just everywhere. This thing, I don't know what's happening here. It looks half built. You know, little spire here. So this stuff was here, and it looks here. These tracks. Everything's just dirt road as well in that shot, which is obviously classic for, you know, after the mud flood. Here's another one. They're just everywhere. Massive doors, domes, spires, portholes, pillars. It's just everywhere. They're all just such big buildings. But where did all the stone come from to build these? Because Fremantle is full of it. It's full of it. Now, this is what we're told, and there's not a lot of information on this. It took a bit of searching to find really not much. We're told that it all comes from a quarry in a town that's sort of southeast of Perth or of Fremantle, called Donnybrook. And this is it. And as you can see all those buildings, and a lot of those that we looked at, they were built in, you know, the 1870s, you know, 1880s, 1890s. So this is back when, you know, they were carting stuff on horseback and trailers. I think this is the early 1900s, late 1800s maybe. But yeah, this is the quarry. It's not that very big. There's no big bits of stone there. This is a picture I found that they plugged. They want to save this site. This is a bit of the old historic quarry, and as you can see, I mean, it's just tiny. These are some big blocks that they're pulling on their cart, but, you know, look, 6 horses to pull those 2 blocks. I mean, with the amount of stone that was there, it's just ridiculous to think they could get it there. And of course, there was no roads. They were going through the bush. The best they'd have dirt tracks, you know, on the back of a wooden wagon, you know, and drawn by horses that need food now. I mean, it's a big ask. So this is 5-ton stone block that they could get. But obviously, you know, there's not many people working there. This is another one of the horse-drawn carts. This is an older photo, but this is how they were moving it. As you can see, again, there's only like 2 blocks on there. Alright, so that's pretty much it. Now, as far as I could find on Donnybrook, now again, there's some photos here of them quarrying it, dragging it away, and this is what they tell us. You know, this is the pictorial history of Donnybrook sandstone, because that's what it's called. The quarries, all the rock that comes from it is called Donnybrook sandstone. Now, as you can see, this is 1895 to 1896, and they're all living in pretty much, I don't know, tents. It's pretty hard to see there, but this town, it wasn't even like, did I find it? Donnybrook, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't, here we go. The town of Donnybrook was gazetted in 1894. Okay, so that's when it turned into a town, and it's first settled around 1842. So it was, you know, it was literally a 20-year-old town out in the middle of the Australian bush, and it was suddenly providing, and it says not just Fremantle, but Perth as well, and other towns around the state with all this rock, all this stone. It just doesn't make sense. You know, it says Donnybrook stone is a fine medium-grained sandstone found in the town of Donnybrook in Western Australia, blah, 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 blah. Donnybrook stone is used as a dimensioning stone in the building industry. Dimensions, I'm not sure what that means. But here you go. Many public and private buildings in Western Australia feature Donnybrook stone, and it's interesting they say feature, and not built from, but all the sources I said found, they said the stone to build the buildings came from Donnybrook as well. These include the facades and porticos to the Parliament House building in West Perth, General Post Office, blah, blah, blah. So again, they're saying facades, and I did find this, which is, again, this guy's been tracing the history of all the different stones and building materials in Perth. And they tell you this is all a facade, this is all put on. So I think this is what they do. I think they just get, small bits of sandstone, like veneers almost, and they just cover the buildings. Because as you can see, we've still got these Greco-Roman, still got that big arch, the arched windows, the keystones, but they've obviously changed it to put a stone in there, a swan. But maybe they're just covering things. And this is another one, as you can see, it's classic red brick. This one as well looks like, it goes downhill, it's got these vents, so who knows, might be half buried. Dome spires. But see how they just sort of do these lines on them? And in those lines is where you always find the names, the branding, if you want. So I found that interesting too. But basically, yeah, all the stone to build all those buildings and more came from this little tiny town called Donnybrook in Perth that was, 20 years old, and it still only today has a very small population. This again is Fremantle Station, and again that's another one that red brick everywhere, and it looks like they may have covered this facade so they could put their insignatures and their logos everywhere. But here, it's all says, it comes from Donnybrook sandstone. It's one of the only sandstone face identified with Australia to have a timeline and extraction methods of sandstone. Blah blah blah. Government quarry is one of a number of quarries that operated in the region since the late 1800s. According to Scott, Donnybrook stone has featured in a number of Perth architectural landmarks such as Fremantle train station facade. Again, there's that word, facade. So where did everything else come from? Where did the brick come from? I haven't been able to find brick anywhere. I mean, we had some brickworks up in Perth, but they weren't big enough to churn out that amount of bricks. So that I might have a delve into that a bit more when I do a video on Perth. But that's pretty much it, guys. So that's Fremantle. That's just down the road from me, and it's just covered, in these old buildings, red stone, all built, but apparently, built by convicts. Look at it all. They've all got the spires. It's once you know what you're looking at, it's just amazing. How did we miss this for so long? It's just so hidden in plain sight. I mean, just look at them. Archways, 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 archways. No doubt. No, they're sort of arched, portholes. I mean, spires, these portico things. It's all the same stuff, guys. Alright, hope you enjoyed that, and I'll be back with another video soon. And remember, stay autodidactic, guys, because self-education is the way forward. Alright, have an awesome day. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye now.